This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
I heard you've been looking for me, but you look for trouble. You're gonna see that your words are dangerous. Your talk is cheap. So now I'm standing here. You tell yourself you know what to do when you realize that I am coming for you. Then you'll change your mind and run like a child when you see me standing here. Now I'm standing here. Don't question my heart. Don't question the fire that burns inside.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another episode of Extreme Resurrection. I'm James Gruenberg alongside Michael Cook. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
Hanging in there. Just got home from a rough trip in Connecticut traffic. For those of you that are from the Northeast, you know how that is. But want to apologize for our month off last week. I had some family issues to take care of, and I'm glad to be back. So how about you, Gruney? How are you doing?
I got the SummerSlam blues. As you know, last week was SummerSlam, and I went to Las Vegas with some of our Place to Be Nation members, and it was a blast.
Well, it to me, it was another great show. But we'll see how it holds up to tonight's shows.
People have said that it's great to be a wrestling fan right now. I mean, with the crowds coming back, CM Punk is in AEW, Impact is making a run for it, so it's like I guess all four brands of professional wrestling and then the indie scene's making a comeback. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan again. It's almost like, the Monday Night Wars in a way, where it was like, oh, you either have WCW or WWE. Now, I really don't watch AEW, but I think I might just tune in just to pop my head in to see where they go with CM Punk.
Yeah, I mean, I figured right now it's just way too much. I have nothing against AEW or anything, but it's just, I'll stick to one brand for now. I pop in every so often when there's a cool thing happening. Like I saw the Punk emergence. I saw, I watch a couple things with Jericho. But it is what it is. Although, hey, a lot of people, and like you said, a lot of people feel it's a great time to be part of the wrestling world, and I do have to agree.
Yep, so tonight we are covering ECW shows on Sci-Fi from September 26, 2006, and ECW October 3rd. Mike, you mentioned on the last show we did that for ECW on Sci-Fi with an hour, you either have a great opening and a bad main event, or vice versa, where you have a bad main event, where you have a bad beginning and then a great main event. And I think for these two shows, your words really hold up. And the show we're covering first is ECW September 26th. That's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. That has a memorable match between Hardcore Holly and Rob Van Dam. That was the match where the "Don't Try This at Home" commercial would really put that match on as a "please don't try this at home. This is what can happen to you."
Oh yeah. And as we go over these two shows, you're going to hear from me something that you haven't heard so far in these shows. So I think.
Are you going to crash? Is the internet going to crash for what you're going to say?
It might. I just hope that this isn't a tease, and then we're back to square one for our for October 10th and on. But let's get on with it, and hey, because this first show is from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you know what that means. Boomer Sooner.
I do. We are live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Jim Ross appears on ECW. He's saying that, he remembers the Mid-South days and, all these old matches, that happened down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Matt Stryker interrupts Jim Ross. He says Stryker is going to give JR a lesson on education. He basically calls JR a redneck, and it looks like Matt Stryker is going to beat up JR when all of a sudden the Sandman comes out and he canes Matt Stryker, and then he gives Jim Ross the cane to hit Matt Stryker with. Mike, how do you feel that they're in Oklahoma and Jim Ross doesn't get his ass kicked?
I was completely shocked.
He gets his butt kicked. He gets his ass kicked by Stone Cold. He kisses Mr. McMahon's ass, and finally, and I think also he got his butt kicked, but he won against Triple H in Oklahoma in 2005.
Yep.
So now Jim Ross finally gets his shots, and he took his shots on Matt Stryker with Sandman's cane.
But I thought that was a decent way to open the show.
Yeah, I mean, you're still, again, it's not a negative, but again, they're still using guests from other shows, but this one was kind of fun. This one was very fun, in my opinion.
I mean, being from Tulsa, so it does make sense. They need to get the name, which I'm okay with. And as we'll find out later, it actually progresses a storyline, or starts a storyline, more like it.
Yeah, it sure does. It's still continuing a feud, as we'll see in our main event tonight. So we have now this is an infamous match. It is an Extreme Rules match. It is Rob Van Dam versus Hardcore Holly. I think this is an excellent matchup. You got the jumps and the flips by Rob Van Dam, and you got Hardcore's toughness. So let's see how this one pans out. Van Dam and Hardcore go to work on each other. Van Dam hits the spinning leg drop on Hardcore. Van Dam pulls the table out. Hardcore slams Van Dam into the steps. Then Hardcore Holly goes on the offense to Van Dam. And then here comes the suplex, where Hardcore Holly suplexes Van Dam through the table.
I mean, it looked sick.
It looked sick. And I don't know if it was a botch on the table or it was just a really bad landing. But when Hardcore Holly gets up, his back is covered in his own blood. And it looked like there was the wire of the table that caught Hardcore's back and really just busted it open.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I know that on another podcast, Bruce Pritchard had said that it was just one of those things that it was just, and even I think I've heard Heyman say it in an interview, it was no one's fault. It was nothing. It was just, it was wrestling. And stuff happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that really it shocked me how brutal that was.
And then they gash when they came back from break.
Yeah, I mean, it was still just busted open. So then Van Dam goes face first into the chair. A diving leg drop into Van Dam's face by the chair. A suplex on the chair by Van Dam. A Van Daminator into Holly. A Rolling Thunder by Van Dam. A powerbomb by Hardcore Holly onto the chair. A 5-star frog splash missed by Van Dam into the chair. So they're really using the chair a lot here as their finisher. And then Van Dam eventually hits the 5-star frog splash for the pin. So your winner is Rob Van Dam. And Mike, I have to say, this match, again, it's brutal from head to toe. start to finish.
And this is, so far, up to this point, this is the best match that we've seen on ECW TV. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was just great from start to finish. I mean, you always knew that Holly could wrestle when he gets the right opponent, and I think RVD was the perfect opponent. Yes, it had a lot of the hardcore elements, but it wasn't just relying on the hardcore. It wasn't hardcore for being hardcore.
No.
They had a lot of good spots. And I really liked this match. And even at the end, even Holly, who was basically a heel, he got, at the end of the match, I mean, he got a good applause.
Oh, yeah, because I think the fans knew that, oh, man, Hardcore Holly just took one of the biggest bumps that wasn't meant to be that impactful, and all of a sudden it just spurged up, and I think the fans were really just like, that must have really hurt. So now we get a CM Punk. Yeah. So now we get a CM Punk is addicted to competition. And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. So then we get a CM Punk is addicted to competition. Kelly asks CM Punk for tips on strip poker. And then it's Ariel versus Francine in a catfight match. Mike?
Yeah. I just had no interest. I mean, yeah, maybe back then, but watching it now, looking back, No.
It's basically just a it's a catfight match between Ariel and Francine. Francine rips off Ariel's shorts, and then basically they're just rolling around. And then Balls Mahoney hits Kevin Thorne with a chair.
That was another sick shot, which, that one was tough to watch.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it really did seem like it was, and so now they're just really basically, continuing this Balls Mahoney versus Kevin Thorne feud. So, I mean, Francine here, it's just a cup of coffee payment, basically.
Yeah, I mean, she's not one to stick around.
No, and I mean, there's no real if they had Jazz like in ECW still, I mean, I guess she was like past her prime, like with all the injuries that she has sustained. Maybe you could start something with them, but there's no women's division really in ECW.
No, it should be Kelly and no one else.
And then, Mike, we get highlights of the Sandman in ECW. Basically, him just caning everybody as it goes along, So, I mean, the Sandman has been building up to this matchup, and it's the big show. Surprisingly enough, Mike, we're at the main event already.
The show went quick. I mean, it did help that, the RVD hardcore match went a while, but I mean, this show flew by.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. Like, I thought I was lost in the shuffle for a minute, like which show we were talking about. And I was like, wow, this really flew by. So, yeah, now they're actually doing something with the Sandman, that's not just caning somebody. He's been in matches before, but this is probably his, his big shot that they're giving him, and it's like a little, I wouldn't say it's a big spotlight, it's more of like a medium spotlight for the Sandman that they're putting him in the main event here.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the Big Show versus Sandman. The ECW title is on the line. Sandman starts using the cane on Big Show immediately. That's the big way to take the big giant down. You cane him and you make him drop to his knees, right, Mike? I mean, how do you get a big man to fall?
I mean, and there's no other way, especially with Sandman, because he really doesn't have, his arsenal is a cane.
Yeah, and then he hits a really good cane shot to Big Show's head. Big Show gets busted open. A headbutt by Big Show. So we're still seeing like a lot of a little bit of more violence. So this is like a very good violent show, where it's like, the hardcore match, the ECW match between Van Dam and Hardcore Holly, and now this match where it's like Sandman is allowed to use the cane and he's just busted open up the Big Show. But still, it's not enough to get the Big Show down for the count. As we see a headbutt by the Big Show, big chops to the Sandman, a clothesline by the Big Show, and then, so Big Show goes for a choke slam. It's countered into a DDT by the Sandman. More cane shots. So Sandman then goes for the cane, but Matt Striker actually takes the cane away from the Sandman. So Matt Striker is basically getting his revenge on the Sandman for having Jim Ross cane Matt Striker. I thought this was a very good little revenge to keep the feud going.
Mm-hmm. No, I will agree. For once, everything is making sense, and that was my biggest complaint with all the shows, is that a lot of stuff didn't make sense, or they just kept doing stuff over and over because they had no other choice.
No, yeah, they did not, and I think it's going well. So then Big Show just gives Sandman the showstopper and he pins Sandman. So the showstopper gets Big Show the win. So your winner and still ECW champion is the Big Show. Mike, I went 1.25 stars on this one. I didn't really find this match. I found it entertaining, but not very good at the same time.
I gave it 1 star, but I think it's more of a setup for next week. It is what it is. It was main event. They're featuring Show. Sandman's a crowd favorite. And I think there's still, his act is still just more, I would say, he's his entrance. It's his entrance. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. The beer, and then he hits the can, and then he hits the can on his head and everything. I think it was this show where the security guard got splashed by the beer, and I was like, if I was this security guard, I would be like, give me more money. I do not deserve to have beer splashed on me. Because I heard, I was like, yeah. Yeah, Mike. So that's gonna come to an end for this show. But I would say that this one here, I'll give it a 2 3/4 for the show entirely.
I gave it 2 1/4. But it was one of the better shows. It went very smooth. The whole cat fight and that main event kind of brought it down a little bit because it started hot. JR, anytime you hear Boomer Sooner to start a program, that's great. And then that match was incredible. It's getting better. This was the best show that we've seen, I think, overall, top to bottom.
Yeah, like I said before, I was really surprised that this show really just flew by. The hardcore match, but they were like, we need something really there's almost, it's not the panic button, but sort of a desperate time call for a desperate measure approach.
Yes.
What would you say, Mike? Do you think it was a panic button, or do you think it was that they mutually agreed we need to do something?
I agree. I think that they need to do something, but I will comment on that after the next show.
Yeah, so let's get into that next show. This is ECW on Sci-Fi from October 3rd, 2006. Topeka, Kansas is where this one is from. We start off in backstage with Paul Heyman and Hardcore Holly. Paul Heyman congratulates Hardcore Holly for his toughness. Hardcore Holly wants Van Dam again, but Paul says no because Paul can be held reliable if if the Hardcore Holly gets injured even more, and Paul Heyman cannot get sued. I think this was a shot on Paul Heyman himself for owing a lot of old ECW talent money still, and I kind of chuckled at that line. He was like, I can't be reliable, man. I mean, I can't get sued any more than I already am.
Yeah, that was a quick. I mean, it to some people it might have been a throwaway, but I think a lot of hardcores understood that.
I know, and I did too. And again, I was just laughing. I was like, oh, because he knows he owes a lot of money to some of his old ECW buddies. So, Hardcore Holly basically grabs Heyman and goes, I want Van Dam. But then Test attacks Hardcore. And so Hardcore is on the ground. And Paul Heyman announces that it's going to be Rob Van Dam versus Test tonight in an Extreme Rules match. So, that being said, we go to the ring. It is the Sandman and Sabu versus Matt Striker and the Big Show. What did you think of Sandman and Sabu tagging here?
A little different, for this iteration of ECW. I mean, I was not expecting much. I was expecting basically a train wreck.
Yeah, I was as well. I didn't find this match. I found this match to be okay, but nothing really stood out. But let's get through it. Sabu and Big Show start off a clothesline to Sabu and headbutt by the Big Show. Tag the Matt Striker. So basically, Matt Striker is being the chicken shit heel, where it's like Big Show basically dominates, and then Matt Striker just comes in and tries to get the pin and the win, but it's not working here. A springboard by Sabu, a headbutt to Sabu, dropkick to Sabu's back by Striker, so Matt Striker can wrestle and do some good dropkicks. A good double team work, I said, Mike, by Big Show and Matt.
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising, and it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible, and Big Show and Striker, they play really good heels. You got the big giant, and then like I said, you got the chicken shit heel in Striker, and they're gonna double team and cheat basically. A spinning kick to Striker, and then Sabu finally gets the tag to the Sandman. A Hurricanrana by Sandman, which I thought was insane that the Sandman was doing the Hurricanrana. You would expect that from Sabu, but not from Sandman.
That was probably his best move ever.
Striker then counters the White Russian leg sweep, and then a big splash by Big Show to Sandman, and then Striker gets the pin. I went 1 star, Mike. It was a typical tag team match where the heels win. I guess the only thing that really stood out to me was that the Hurricanrana by the Sandman.
I gave it 1.5 stars. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it was as bad as I envisioned it was going to be. Yes, it was your typical tag team, and you really can't do a ton with Sabu and Sandman, but that Hurricanrana just shocked me. It woke me up. And actually, I thought that the team of Striker and Show wasn't that bad. Everyone remembers Jericho and Show Miz. I wonder, Show and Striker, especially with Striker's, his verbals, him on the mic, they might have had an okay run somewhere.
Yeah, not that any of these guys couldn't hold their own, but if you want to go back to 2001 when it was not Billy Gunn, but like when it was the Big Show and Spike Dudley and Big Show and Tajiri too. I thought that they were doing good, small guy, big guy tag team with the Big Show. Some of it paid off, some of it didn't, but I think for this one, since they're both heels, it really does help. It's like, well, I got my big brother. What do you have? So this was really good. Good heel work and good tag team by Big Show and Matt Striker.
That definitely reminded me more of Miz and Show.
Yeah, because you got the cockiness of the Miz and, just the Big Show being like, oh, you can't touch the Miz.
Yeah.
So now, Mike, we get an Extreme Strip Poker promo. Mike, when you saw I don't know if you watched it the first time, because I mean, when we get to the episode next time for Extreme Resurrection. But when you hear Extreme Strip Poker, what do you think comes to mind?
Well, you knew nothing was going to be shown or anything like that. I figured it was just going to be a setup to something. I never saw it live, so I haven't seen the episode yet for next week, so I have no idea. I'm just expecting it to be a letdown and leading to something else.
I did see that episode back when I was 14, so
it had a little bit different feeling for you.
Yeah, I feel like my 14-year-old self was like, oh man, Sci-Fi is gonna let it go uncensored. Yeah, I mean,
well, let's put it this way: I would have been 31 at the time. So yeah, it wasn't as
Yeah, but basically throughout the whole entire night, like they're just doing like these promos. Like I think this was like they were really trying to persuade people to turn on ECW. And for me, it worked, but we'll get to it how disappointing it is. So, yeah. So now we have Kevin Thorne versus Tommy Dreamer. Kick to Kevin's face by Tommy. Kevin hits Tommy Dreamer into the middle turnbuckle. I thought this was brutal. This rib breaker to Tommy by Kevin Thorne. A reverse neck breaker by Tommy. A swinging neck breaker by Tommy. Tommy Dreamer has become like the king of neck breakers at this point. Don't you think, Mike?
I mean, that seemed like that was, his one move for a while. Because at this point I knew who Tommy Dreamer was, but I never really watched any of his stuff. And to me, he wasn't impressive overall. It took a little while for me to understand about Dreamer. And I know he was a big deal in ECW. I know about his story, how, with him and Raven, and he was basically the heart of ECW. But to me, at this point, as a WWE fan, to me, he's just another guy at this point.
Yeah, because it's 2006. It's like, I mean, again, if you watch ECW back in the day, Tommy Dreamer is he's almost like one of the leaders of ECW, alongside with Taz, Sabu, Sandman, and Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
And along with like other people too, but it's like those were like the 5 captains of ECW throughout the 90s and like the dying days. I mean, Tommy is basically like the last. Him and Van Dam are basically like the last members of the original who were still working when ECW closed. I don't think Sandman and Sabu were working at the time of the closure of ECW. So then DDT to Kevin Thorne, but Ariel puts Thorne's hand on the rope, and then a cane shot to Tommy Dreamer for the win. Mike, I gave this 3/4 of a star. I didn't like that it ended with the cane shot for the win. I thought that if Kevin Thorne's going to win, you got to have him win with his finisher.
I agree. Because he hasn't been really built up superly. I mean, he's been okay. I gave this match a half a star. Just not impressed.
Yeah, I do like Kevin Thorne's like Razor's Edge. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, yeah, it's the Razor's Edge, but Kevin Thorne does it cool also, like Scott Hall does.
Mm-hmm.
So now Maria gives her strip poker promo. So again, they're really doing this. They're doing this strip poker promos.
Now, back in that day, Maria was my number one.
Yeah, but they gave her like the ditzy sort of like she was only good for her looks and not good for intelligence for some reason. Like they made her like a ditzy like girl who knew nothing, and it was like, why are you doing this?
Well, until the trial of Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, which had already passed at this point. It was like that was like your one big moment to actually testify and get Eric Bischoff fired, and then they make you look goofy again.
I don't know. Maria, like I said, Maria and Kelly Keller were my two.
Okay. So now we get CM Punk versus Danny Doring. Oh boy. Kicks to Danny Doring. A double underhook backbreaker by Punk, which looked good. Knee to the face by Punk. You know the rest of it. The Uranagi, sorry, not the Uragami, the Uranagi into the Anaconda Vice grip. Gave this a half a star because it's time for everyone else. It's time for CM Punk to get more action than Danny Doring.
I would feel at this point, I mean, again, I didn't know anything about CM Punk at this point, except, all the hype. And to me, what's the hype? Like, let's do something already.
I mean, unless you know him from Ring of Honor.
And I didn't. It. And most people probably didn't.
No. Not even, I didn't know it at the time. But
I mean, the hardcores do. The hardcores did. But you got to look at the everyday audience. This is, okay, who is this guy? Okay, so he's beating Danny Doring. He's beating all these guys. I mean, yeah, he fought Shannon Moore, which, I still think was a huge mistake. But to me, there's nothing to this guy.
Yep. Not yet, at least. And, Danny Doring is the old ECW. He was one of the breeds of the dying days of ECW. So, before we get to our main event, we have... Oh, yeah. So, after that, Kelly starts dancing for CM Punk. Then Mike Knox stops her. So, Knox starts going towards the ring, but he backs off. So... hopefully down the line, we see Mike Knox versus CM Punk. I don't know if that's going to be better than Danny Doring, but maybe they'll get more time.
Yes.
So before we get to our main event, we have one more strip poker promo from Ashley and Crystal. And I kind of felt bad, like, seeing Ashley again for what happens in the end with her. I just thought it was really, really sad how she took her own life. And, that was really, really sad.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is a tough business.
Yeah, I remember, oh, man. I remember, like, trying to find a piece of paper and a pen. Because nobody saw it coming that Ashley Massaro was going to give out her phone number on live television.
I can't even imagine how that happened and what happened after that.
I think they were just like, I don't think they knew it was coming, and they were just like, Okay. And like I don't, it's not like her look. That's not what got her to win the 2005 Diva competition. There were like she was really good looking, and she won all the contests. But like that was just stunning. It almost reminds me of a prank that Al Snow did on Val Venus when Al Snow is looking for his dog Pepper, and he gave Val Venus his phone number as the number to call. So all these fans are like, "Hi, is this the number to call Pepper?" And Val Venus is like, "Pepper, what are you talking about?" So the next day, Val Venus had to get a new phone number, and Al Snow was like, "Hey Val, do you know where Pepper is?" And he was like, "You gave everybody my phone number."
That is the first I've heard that story. That is hilarious.
Oh yeah, Val Venus told that story. He was like, "Yeah," Al Snow was like, "It's Val's number, okay?" He's like, "What's my number?" And everyone kept calling Val Venus's phone number for tips on where Pepper is. So now we get Rob Van Dam versus Test in an Extreme Rules match. So Mike, this is basically going to our words where either you get a bad beginning, great main event, or great beginning, bad main event. Rob Van Dam versus Test, Extreme Rules match. Test throws Rob Van Dam to the outside into the steps. Van Dam misses the spinning leg kick into the guardrail. Usually Van Dam hits that move, and I was surprised that this time he missed the spinning leg kick onto the guardrail. What you think about that, Mike, that Van Dam finally misses it?
Sort of like when the Nate finally hits a move off the top rope, or Jericho actually wins with the line salt.
Yeah, another one that I always wondered if remember when Bubba Ray Dudley always did that butt dive and he always like missed. I always wondered if he ever hit that because it always seemed like he missed and he was just like grabbing his butt like, oh, that really, really hurts. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
Or when Kurt Angle finally landed the moonsault.
Only takes one time.
Yep. So Test rams the steps into Van Dam but misses, and the steps fall back onto Test. A rolling thunder onto the steps by Van Dam. The table comes out. A clothesline by Test. Kick to Van Dam's face by the chair. Van Dam throws a chair into Test's face. A sunset flip power bomb by Van Dam into the table. What did you think of that?
I rewound it because that was impressive.
And then Test basically just like gets a low blow in. And then the Riot Squad beat up Van Dam. Test throws Van Dam into a chair. A rolling thunder missed by Van Dam. And this is what really popped me, Mike, the most. A diving elbow by Test into the chair onto Van Dam. I thought that was like Test's best move up to point. What did you think of that move when Test does the diving elbow onto the chair?
Like, where was that more often?
I can't even tell you, like, where that was. It was hiding. And again, I guess, Paul, like, asking Vince, can we do this and that? We need fans and we need a good rating. So I think Paul Heyman was like, we need this to happen. Put your bodies on the line. Do something. And Test really did something.
I mean, Paul Heyman was always known for, hide the negatives, accentuate the positives. But this match, I mean, this was just, I gave it 3.5 stars.
Oh yeah. So then another table is brought in. clothesline by Test, a sidekick by Van Dam, and then Rob Van Dam does the crossbody to the Riot Squad. This is what I didn't like, Mike. The Big Show just pushes Van Dam into the table. Then a swinging neck breaker by Test for the win. I kind of went low on this match because I didn't like the ending where the Big Show just interferes. I think Test could have won this match by himself. Have Van Dam do the 5-star frog splash and miss, and then have Test do the neck breaker. But again, I guess they really want the heels to, be on top and say, this is our ECW.
Yeah. I mean, I forgave it, the ending, because I thought the match was really good. And where I said last show that the RVD hardcore match, I actually like this one better.
I think they were both equally good with the violence. I think Hardcore gets a little bit more of a notch because, Hardcore Holly put his body on the line, and Hardcore Holly got the worst end of it. But I think also Test could have had a bad accident with that diving elbow.
Yeah, I mean, I think RVD brought out the best of both of them, and I mean, both matches were incredible.
Yeah, I don't think that RVD was just the carrier. I think also that Hardcore Holly and Test really did a great job carrying themselves.
Yeah, no, I'll agree. But I would say that these two matches were the best two matches that we've seen.
Yep. I gave this show I'll give this show 3 stars altogether.
And believe it or not, I was doing the same exact thing. Now, if they're gonna make it like a Raw, have 2 decent to good matches, angle progression, and have things make sense, then let's have at it. Because right now, these last 2 shows, I was pretty impressed. Now again, at this point, I am not seen farther on, so I don't know what happens or anything like that. It'll be looking good to see, and I really hope that this trend continues.
Yeah, I hope this trend continues of good ECW matches, and hopefully the baby faces, or the good guys, as we like to say, get a little payback.
Yeah, I think it. I would guess it would happen at toward the end there. It's still going to be interesting to see where how long Big Show keeps up his run as champion. And let's see what other matches RVD can have.
Yeah. Well, Mike, before we wrap up this episode of Extreme Resurrection, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Well, we still have the monthly pay-per-view betting, predictions. Even though we are, heading into September, you can still get in. It's $10 for the rest of the year, and we give prizes out every month, no matter what. And also, for those of you into the NFL, we also have an NFL pick'em. $10 goes to the winner for every week. It's $10 for the year. And, then we give prizes for overall and second place. And for those of you guys that want that information, you can either contact me at via my email, mdcook2575@hotmail, or contact JT, and he'll get you set up also. The more the merrier. Last year we had 33. We're like to try to get up to 40 people this year.
Yeah, I hope it's going to be a very great NFL season this year. We'll see what happens, right, Mike?
Go G-Men.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mike, I am all over the place. I've been all over the place on the the Place to Be Nation sister feeds as well. I'll start off by saying I was on the Jenny position as the latest guest on Talkin' Pop, where I tell my story on how I became Gruney, basically, on Talkin' Pop with Jennifer Smith and Tim Capel on the Jenny position. Over on the North-South feed with Justin and Tim Capel, we are looking back chronologically on Beverly Hills 90210 episodes. I was the guest for season 1, episode 5, One-on-One, where Brandon encounters racial tensions on that episode that we covered. And Mike also on this feed, dropping in September with Steve Riddle and our host Andy Atherton, making Mount Rushmore Wrestling Edition, where
and both, yes,
you, me, and Steve, we discussed our best ladder matches and best cage matches of all time.
And I thought, when we're going through it, you forget about certain matches, and it's good. I think that show is a great show because you have your memories of stuff, and then when people bring up something else, you're like, oh wow, holy cow, how did I forget that?
Yeah, I think I really forgot about the Armageddon 2006 Fatal 4-Way match. So I think was it you, Mike, or was it Steve who brought that one up?
I think it was Steve.
Oh yeah, and I just groaned. I was like, oh man, I cannot believe I forgot that one. Well, that's going to do it from us here on Extreme Resurrection. I'm James Gruenberg alongside Michael Cook. Stay extreme. We will see you next time.
I heard you've been looking for me, but you look for trouble. You're gonna see that your words are dangerous. Your talk is cheap. So now I'm standing here. You tell yourself you know what to do.